The Cabernet Sauvignon was a 2019 vintage, a gift from Henry's mother, Margaret, who had pressed it into his hands that evening with a smile too warm for December. It was the kind of wine that cost more than it tasted, chosen not for the drinking but for the showing. At 8:47 p.m. on Christmas Eve, inside the Caldwell family dining room at their 3-story colonial in Coral Gables, Florida, that bottle became a weapon. Gloria Caldwell was 7 months pregnant. She sat at the far end of a mahogany table dressed in a cream-colored maternity wrap dress, something she had ordered online 3 weeks prior, on a Tuesday, during the same hour she had discovered the second phone. She wore small pearl earrings and no smile. Her hands rested on the tablecloth, poised and still, like a woman who had rehearsed the art of composure until it became indistinguishable from peace. Around them sat the whole of the Caldwell family, Henry's parents, Margaret and Edward, anchoring either end of the table like sentinels. His younger brother Dale in a navy blazer, his wife Patrice beside him, their children already excused upstairs. The room smelled of roasted garlic and pine, and the faint, sweet rot of something about to collapse. 3 weeks earlier, on a Wednesday morning when Henry had left his gym bag in the car and come back inside for it, he had also left the second phone on the bathroom counter. It was a sleek, matte black prepaid device, no case, and it buzzed once before Gloria could look away. The name on the screen read simply, J. She had stood there in her robe, 7 weeks from her due date, and stared at it the way a person stares at a car accident, unable to process what the wreckage used to be. She did not confront him that morning. She waited. She charged the phone herself, guessed the passcode on the second attempt, his mother's birthday, and spent 4 hours reading 14 months of messages between her husband and a woman named Jasmine Vega, a 31-year-old event planner from Boca Raton whom Henry had met at a corporate gala in September of the previous year. The affair was everything. Hotel receipts forwarded by text, voice notes full of laughter, photographs Gloria could not unsee. But it was not Jasmine who broke her. It was a text chain dated 6 weeks prior, between Henry and his brother Dale. She suspects nothing, Henry had written. Dale's reply came within minutes. Keep it together until after the holidays. Mum doesn't need the drama. And then, from Margaret herself, a message forwarded to Henry. The prenup still holds if she leaves. Just make sure the baby's here first. The whole family knew. They had built the lie like a house, framed it, insulated it, painted it white, and invited Gloria inside to live. She did not pack a bag. She did not call her mother in Tallahassee or her college roommate Denise, who had always warned her about men who were charming at dinner and cold in the car. She did what survivors do, gathered her evidence slowly, made copies, and waited for Christmas Eve, the night the Caldwells liked best, the night they believed belonged to them. At the table, Henry had been drinking since 6. He wore a dark green linen shirt, a gift from Jasmine, though no one in the room knew it but him. His jaw was set in the particular way it got when he was performing ease. Shoulders too loose, laughter half a beat too loud. Gloria watched him from her end of the table and felt nothing that resembled love. What she felt was far older and far colder, the specific clarity of a woman who has already decided. It began, as these things often do, with something small. Gloria declined the wine when Dale moved to pour her glass. "She can't drink," Henry said from his end of the table, waving a hand as though correcting a child. "She's pregnant, Dale." "Obviously." His tone carried that particular edge, the condescending warmth of a man who mistakes contempt for authority. "I know," Gloria said quietly. "I was going to ask for water." Henry's eyes found hers across the length of the table, and something in her stillness unsettled him. He had expected fragility. He had grown accustomed to the version of Gloria who cried quietly in the bathroom and emerged red-eyed but composed, who carried his secrets without knowing she carried them. "What are you looking at?" he asked, and the table went quiet. Margaret set down her fork. Dale reached for his water glass. Patrice stared at the centerpiece. "The truth," Gloria said. "One word." It landed in the room the way a stone lands in still water without violence, but with the kind of weight that sends ripples to every shore. Henry laughed, a short, sharp sound, more reflex than amusement. He reached for his glass. He stood, and then, in a motion no one quite processed until it was already over, he crossed the length of the dining room, reached his wife's end of the table, and with a contempt that had been building for 14 months, lifted the Cabernet Sauvignon and poured it directly over Gloria's face. "You think you're still my wife? Look at you." The wine ran dark and slow down her cheeks, across the pearl earrings, into the cream of her dress, pooling at her collarbone. Nobody moved, not Margaret, not Dale, not Patrice. The candles burned. Somewhere upstairs, a child laughed. Gloria did not flinch. She did not raise her hands to wipe her face. She sat perfectly still for 3 full seconds, long enough for Henry to realize that the silence in the room was not shock. It was witness. Then she reached into the small clutch bag beside her chair and placed a manila envelope on the table. It was thick with paper-printed screenshots, hotel receipts, a notarized statement from a private investigator she had hired 10 days prior. She slid it slowly toward the center of the table until it rested between the candlesticks. "I filed for divorce this morning," she said, and her voice did not waver. "My attorney's name is on the second page. Your mother's text about the prenup is on the 7th. She paused and looked at Margaret, whose face had gone the color of old wax. "Merry Christmas, Margaret." She stood. The wine still dripped from her jaw. She picked up her water glass, took one long drink, and set it down with the kind of deliberate care that said, "I am not in a hurry. I have already won." She walked out of the dining room without looking at Henry again, retrieved her coat from the hall stand she had hung it there that morning, knowing, and left the front door open behind her. A warm Florida night rushed in. Somewhere down the street, a neighbor's Christmas lights blinked red and green. Her Uber arrived in 4 minutes. She sat in the back seat and sent a single text to her mother in Tallahassee. "I'm coming home. Don't make a fuss." "Just put the kettle on?" Henry Caldwell stood at the head of the ruined dinner for a long time after she left. The envelope sat in the candlelight, fat and damning. Dale would not look at him. Patrice had quietly left the table. Margaret sat very still, her wineglass empty, and for the first time in 22 years, she looked old. He picked up the envelope, looked at it a long moment, then set it back down without opening it. He already knew what was inside, the way that guilty men always know, not as fact, but as weather, always coming, and then finally, here. "Henry," his father said from the other end of the table. Edward Caldwell had not spoken all evening. His voice, when it came, was quiet and without comfort. "Go after her," Henry said. "She's gone, Dad." And Edward replied, I know. Go anyway. Not because she'll come back. Because you should be the one standing in that driveway in the dark. That belongs to you now. Henry went. He stood on the front steps of his Coral Gables house in his dark green linen shirt and watched the road. The Uber was long gone. The Florida air was warm and damp and smelled of jasmine, the plant, not the woman, and the irony of it sat in his chest, like a splinter he couldn't find and couldn't ignore. He did not cry that night. The crying came later, in January, when he received the hospital photograph his attorney forwarded Gloria holding their daughter 4 weeks after Christmas. The baby had her mother's nose and her father's ears, and she would grow up in Tallahassee knowing only one version of the story, the true one. Gloria named her Nora. She did not consult Henry. The birth certificate listed her own name, Gloria Ann Reyes, her maiden name, reclaimed as the child's primary surname. She returned to work in March, reopened the interior design studio she had paused for the marriage, and repainted the front door of her mother's guest cottage, a deep, deliberate red. Henry called once, in February. She did not answer. He left a voicemail, 12 seconds of silence, and then his voice, hoarse and unrecognizable. I'm sorry, Gloria. I know. That doesn't... I know. She listened to it once, standing in her mother's kitchen, with Nora asleep against her chest, and then she deleted it. Some apologies arrived too late to be anything other than a record of what was lost. She did not survive him. She outlasted him. Which is better? And the open front door of the Caldwell house, the one she had walked through without looking back, had let in the Florida night, and the Florida night had stayed.